Clams Casino is one of the most innovative producers and has such a distinct sound. And in this video, we're going to uncover the secrets behind his beats. Let's start with the sound he's most well known for.
Popcorn, put the juice back, get your popcorn, juice snacks.
With this type of beat, Clams manages to bring the art of sampling into a whole new world. He would sample literally anything, not just old soul records. Take the level sample, for instance. Some key elements to look out for when sampling in this style are 1. Chords. It needs to have a good progression with an ethereal yet melodic vibe. And 2. Vocals. Finding the right chop with the right vocal is crucial. So when beginning our beat, there was one song that I thought would be perfect. To start flipping it, we need to chop up the sample. On first listen to a song like Level, the chops might sound like this. However, Clams is much more methodical with it. To bring a more humanized feeling, he uses lots of variation. So to flip our sample, I began with the same chops as before, but messed with the length and positioning until we got this. Next, the drums. Clams tends to use very straightforward drum patterns. It's more so the sound selection that sets his stuff apart. He usually opts for acoustic snares and kicks. And with the hats, his patterns are very simple, this time using a 2-step hi-hat. Now to finish the beat off, we're missing 2 things. 1, a bass. I added a simple synth bass underneath. And 2, the sample needs to feel more ethereal. Now you might think, just EQ out the highs, but to get a wider, more authentic Clams Casino sound, try this. First, grab a reverb and turn the mix to 100%. Make sure the decay time is short because we don't want it to get messy. Then turn the size up so it's as wide as possible. And finally mess around with the EQ settings to filter the sample out. So we've looked at how to sample like Clams Casino. Now let's go one step further and make a beat from scratch. This time I took inspiration from one of his latest releases. It has the same kind of vibe as the ASAP Rocky songs, but it's a bit more melodic. First, I came up with a progression using a sound from my super sick synth. It's definitely important to use a sound with high end. We want all the frequencies filled to give us a sound as big as possible. Next, I added an element inspired by the sample from Level. In the background, you can hear a soft bell. So I added something similar, processing it with a delay and lossy to give it that washed 2000s glitchy kind of feeling. And finally, I added an ambient vocal. Next, let's chop it up, but with a different technique this time. Most of Clams Casino's sample chops have this glitchy, unquantized sound that's really hard to replicate. However, I found a great way to do it. First, you need some kind of granular sampler. There's loads out there, but I use Granulizer 2. I chose this preset, dragged in the sample, and recorded it into Edison. And then did it again, this time with a slower grain speed, meaning the chops are longer. It's also important to note that neither of these are tempo synced. Next, I chopped parts from both recordings and pieced them together. As you can hear, I made sure each chord has a different texture. After that, I pitched the sample down, added a reverb, and lowered the sample rate to make it even more ambient. For the drums, I used similar patterns to the first beat, starting with a kick, snare, and reversed hi-hat. Then I added a synth bass and 2-step hi-hat. However, to me, it was just missing that cohesion. So I thought, if I can reverb the sample, why not the drums? I bussed them all to one mixer channel, added a compressor, reverb, and that left us with this. For our final track, I wanted to delve into Clams Casino's more unique style of beats, specifically North North.
Bitch, you thirsty, please grab Sprite. My crib's lurking, don't die tonight.
The main sound is so unique, and one person on Reddit seemed to think it's sampled from this video. This got me thinking, what other strange instruments can we use to make a beat? So I literally typed in weird instruments on YouTube and scrolled through this playlist until I found this. I started by chopping it up, pitching it down, and adding reverb, compression, and EQ. Then I added an 808 and snare. This gave it a West Coast bounce, which is super fitting for Vince Staples. Next, I placed some percussion in between, as well as a kick. This beat is very spaced out. And finally, I added a synth ARP inspired by another Vince Staples song.
This could be forever, baby.
It adds that high-end texture to finish it all off.